Jake Sanderson of the Ottawa Senators has just signed a massive extension at 8 years by $8.05 million. A contract extension that really came out of nowhere. Before we get into this whole contract situation with Jake Sanderson, we know that 98% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. So if you guys are looking for a spot to cover your favorite team, to get all the news about the NHL, you're in the right place. Make sure to stay a while, subscribe to the channel, because we'll be posting stuff all throughout this season. Very soon, these seasons coming up, and you're not going to want to miss any news we have about the NHL, any league outside the NHL, and your favorite team. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. This came out only maybe 10 minutes ago from NHL News, Puck Report, Elliot Friedman, all the insiders are on it now. Breaking, Jake Sanderson signs an 8-year, $8.05 AAV contract extension with the Ottawa Senators. And like I said, this contract extension really came out of nowhere. He's still on the final year of his entry-level deal, then going over to this contract extension next year. For a guy that's only played 77 games in the NHL with 32 points, this is a lucrative contract. That's all I can say about this. Noah, what's your immediate thoughts on this contract extension for Jake Sanderson?
It's a lot of money. Like you said, a lot of money for a guy who's played literally one season in the NHL. You know, before we started recording, I kind of looked at comparable contracts. I mean, Thomas Chabot, his teammate, actually signed an 8-year, $8 million deal there a couple of years ago. And that was after, I think it was 3 or 4 seasons in the NHL. Same thing with a guy like Miro Heiskanen, you know, guys who've actually proven they can be a legit NHL defenseman. And I'm not saying Jake Sanderson is not going to be a legit NHL defenseman. By no means. I think he's got the talent. But it's a lot of money to commit to a guy who's played 77 games.
No, it absolutely is. It's a very early time to make this deal in his NHL career. We've seen that he has the capabilities of being an elite NHL defenseman from this year in Ottawa and playing with North Dakota. But, you know, he probably will be worth this money, but it is a major risk giving it to him so early. I kind of expected something like we were talking about this earlier as well, that it would be more of a bridge deal, few million for a few years, because if you didn't know who this player was and you've seen that it was a defenseman, you looked at his points, you would not think that that player should be making $8 million, an $8 million 8-year extension as well. That is just absolutely crazy. But this puts me in mind of what Trevor Zegras situation will be like. You know, we came out a report earlier a couple days ago that Elliot Friedman said that he don't see it being a long-term deal. But we know how good Trevor Zegras has been and how many years he's been in the league. He's been in the league for a few years now. And the Anaheim Ducks still aren't really, I guess, committed to giving him a long-term contract for a huge amount of money. Unlike the Ottawa Senators did just now to Jake Sanderson. But yeah, this is an incredible contract for someone at that age and that much experience.
I like another free agent. You say you talked about Trevor Zegras and the whole RFA situation going on with him, but I'm looking at Rasmus Dahlin, you know, over there in Buffalo, who's had probably 3 or 4 seasons now where he's been a top 20 defenseman, even top 10, I should say, in the league. And, you know, they're saying he might make $10.5, $11 million, which is absolutely justified if Jake Sanderson's getting $8 million, like it's nothing.
Yeah, no, we're starting to see now at the point in the NHL where teams are willing to give these guys, younger guys, more risky contracts for the time being, with a lot more money, knowing that the cap will go up over the next few years. But like you said, with Thomas Chabot, he's now Jake Sanderson is now the 3rd highest paid player on this Ottawa Senators roster, just ahead of Thomas Chabot. But you can see here with the lines, he's going to be playing behind Chabot likely for probably a few more seasons. We don't know. I'm assuming that the Ottawa Senators aren't really ready to move on from Chabot. He's still been a very solid defenseman, just like basically this entire defense has. Very good defense. So I guess willing to lock up a player that you're putting a lot of risk into for 8 years, giving him that money will be worth it if it pays out. But like the contracts I just said as well, you know, he's the 3rd highest paid behind Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, 2 players who have proven themselves in the NHL. They've played a few seasons, very good in their points, production-wise, just knowledge, IQ-wise of the game. But Jake Sanderson, like you said, Noah, very, very little experience for a lot of money.
I like what the Senators are doing, you know, locking up those young guys for long-term deals. They just signed Brady Tkachuk. I think it was not last season, the season before, to an 8-year deal. You know, Thomas Chabot is locked up long-term. You know, they just signed Tim Stützle to an absolute crazy deal. You know, their young guys are together, and it seems like they're ready to win in Ottawa. But like, I like what they're doing, but I don't know if they're ready to. You know, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, one thing they also are setting themselves up for is a lot of those guys who are going to be looking for a new contract. Now, this is 8 years' time, so who knows if they'll still be on the team by this time, but a lot of these guys will be expiring in a short period of time, like Stutzel, Brady Tkachuk, and as well as Jake Sanderson. You know, these guys are giving themselves pretty much an 8-year window, the Ottawa Senators are, to be able to win at this point, but being able to spread this money out, I would say this is not so bad of a contract because they have nobody making over $9 million. You know, if they had a few players making over 10, this would be a lot more of a risky contract, knowing they won't have enough money. But a lot of their top players are locked up for under $9 million, which is pretty smart. I'm surprised they can actually be able to do that with the players they have, because they have some very.
I'm looking at the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, like that's a perfect example though. No hate towards the Maple Leafs, but if you can get those guys on the Ottawa Senators right now, young guys, for under 10 million, under 9 million even, for the next, like, for the foreseeable future over these 8 years, they're going to be in a good spot over the next few years. But it's just right now, fresh off the right off the cusp of this, it seems like an insane contract to be able to give a guy who has 77 games of NHL experience. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think about this contract. It is an absolutely crazy one. There's no doubt about that. Now, you got any final thoughts before we send this one off?
Yeah, I like what the Senators are doing, boss. Committing all this money in one place, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's only fresh too, so we don't really have our final thoughts on it. We may be going over this again in another video. We'll be seeing if we find out any new about the contract or anything. We need a little bit more time to let this process and see what we actually think about it. Work over what the Ottawa Senators are going to be doing. But that's all we got. If you did like it, make sure to like the video, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we're going to be hosting a lot more stuff over the league, over the NHL season, which starts just under a month, or just about a month. It's going to be very exciting times. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and see you later.